writing a black woman, I saw that most of you were trying to explain the stanza, the various stanzas. No. Now the question is what? You should what? Explain black woman. Students, listen. The format for answering this question applies to most of the questions that they'll ask you in literature to do. Okay? So if you're asked to what? Explain what? Or discuss black woman as a negritude poem, you first of all need to tell us what a negritude poem is, and then if you are able to tell us what a negritude poem is, you tell us what. If you have pen, you can write what I'm saying. You tell us what a negritude poem is. You tell us the pioneer of what? Negritude, the negritude movement in France. And then you'd also have to give the gist of the poem, something brief about the poem. What is the poem about? And if possible, you also say something brief about what? The poet. Now you should note the difference between what? A poet and then what? A poem. Now if I ask you to discuss a black woman as a negritude poem, it is different from when I ask you to discuss what? Leopold as a negritude poet. All right? Okay. So after doing all this, what you need to do next is to what? Tell us the features of what? A negritude poem, and try as much as possible to link them to the poem. Now, if you say that what? Um, one of the features of a negritude poem is what? It emphasizes the beauty of Africa. Now, if this is a feature of a negritude poem, now, why do you think that this feature makes the poem Black Woman a negritude one? Is it clear? Now, you don't just write and then talk without what? Making reference to the poem. That was why I asked you from the beginning of this class that you should try as much as possible. If you can't memorize the whole poem, you should know what? At least few lines from the poem, so that when you are writing, you would be in the Rosemont, what is the challenge?
Madam, please,
Yes.
your voice is low.
Okay, can you hear me now?
It's low.
It's very low. Is it okay now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Somehow.
All right. I believe it's better now.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
if you give that as a feature of what? A negritude poem, you need to tell us why is it what? A negritude, why does that feature of a negritude poem make what? The poem Black Woman a negritude one. All right? Now, when you write, you make sure you make reference to what? The various lines in the poem. Now, if you write without making reference to the lines in the poem, you get 0. Is it okay? Hmm? Is it okay?
Yes, madam.
Very good. So let's look at this. If let's say one of the features of what the negritude poem is, it emphasizes the beauty of Africa. Now, when you are able to explain this, then you tell us, or you can take a line from the poem. Let's read this line: Black woman. Or we have another line from the poem: form is beauty. All right. You can also use what lines like what naked woman, black woman. So all these lines you need to what memorize them. You need That's why you need to know the poem very well. You need to what know the various lines of the poem before we start the analysis. Okay. All right. So you make sure you also paragraph what your work. All right. I have written the answers for the themes of what discuss what the themes in what black woman. I am yet to type that, and then I'll send that also to you guys. So you read it. If you have any challenge, you let me know. So that is that. So let's proceed with what we are supposed to do for today. All right. Okay. So we are still on black woman. Now the reason why I have taken my time with this poem is if you are able to what understand and then you know how to answer questions on this black woman, then when we take another poem, it will be easy for us. Okay. So today we shall look at what last 2 weeks we were supposed to look at the structure of the poem, but because of the network issue, we couldn't complete that. So we will do that this morning, and then we will proceed with another thing. So we have done theme already. All right. Now let's look at what structure of the poem. Now, before we look at the structure of the poem, let's look at what structure is, or the definition of what structure. Now, when we talk of what structure in literature, what does it mean? That is what we are going to look at this morning before we proceed with our class. Now, structure of a poem refers to the way it is presented to the reader. The structure of a poem refers to the way it is presented to the reader. Okay. Now if you want to look at the structure of something, you are looking at what the things that make up what that particular item. So if you're also looking at the structure of a poem, you are looking at what the totality of what the poem. How is the poem? You need to look at the stanzas, you need to look at the various lines, you need to look at what the stress and then the unstressed syllables, you need to look at what the rhyme scheme, you need to also look at what you need to look at a number of things. All right. So the second point here is what it also refers to movement between lines and stanzas. All right. So structure of a poem refers to the way it is presented to the reader, as I said early on. This include technical things such as the line, that is what the length of what the poem, and what the stanza format. Now, how is the stanza? That is what we are looking at over here. Also, we consider movement between lines and stanzas. The poem may have a rhyme scheme and readings in each line. I have said this earlier. So the poem may have what? Rhyme scheme. You need to look at the rhyme scheme. Now the lines are arranged in a special way to create a specific effect on the audience. So the various lines of the poem, they have what? A special reason for which the writer arranged them for. So the lines are supposed to what? Create an effect on the audience. The audience here refers to what? The reader or the readers. Okay. So if you read a line, a particular line, there is a special way you need to what? Read that line. that is what you observing the stress syllables and then the unstressed syllables. Now we looked at what stress and then unstressed syllables in core English, if you can remember that. So the way you read a line, laying emphasis or not laying emphasis on certain words create what an effect on the audience or on the reader. All right, good. So we looked at what sonnet the last time. All right, we look at sonnet, we look at the structure. So if you take a sonnet, for example, a sonnet has what if you look at the structure of a sonnet, you see that what that sonnet a sonnet has is made up of what 14 lines. Okay, it's made up of what 14 lines. So that is the structure of a sonnet. And this 14 line poem has a specific rhyme scheme. We did this. So that is the structure of a poem. So now if we take the structure of the poem Black Woman, the poem Black Woman is not a sonnet. Why is it not a sonnet? Because the lines are more than 14 and the rhyme scheme are also different. So the poem Black Woman also has what a particular structure which we shall look at in today's lesson. Any question before we proceed? All right, let's look at the structure of the Black Woman. Now when you take, I believe you all have your poem with you. Now when you take the poem is written in 4 stanzas with varying number of lines in each stanza. So the poem is made up of 14 of what 4 stanzas, and then each stanza has what a particular or varying number of what lines in this stanza, creating a particular what or specific effect on the audience. All right. Now, when you take Leopold's Black Woman, you can see that it is written in 4 stanzas. So this is the first point under what structure. If you are to what explain or you are to examine the structure of let's say the poem Black Woman, you tell the examiner the first structure you would like to discuss is what the poem is written in 4 stanzas with varying number of lines in each stanza. Now I'm going to explain this. Okay, good. So this is how you go about your writing as well. So the first stanza tells us that the poet has rediscovered the beauties of Africa. Okay, when you take the first stanza of the poem, you can see that what the poet travels from his hometown, which is what Senegal in Africa, to what a white man's land, which is what France, where racism and discrimination is prevalent. Okay, so when he was in France, he noticed all of these cruel and what evil nature of these whites or the Europeans, and he has now rediscovered that what Africa is what a beautiful land. It is a land where people show love to people, to others. Okay, now the beauties the poet portrays this beauty by using the poem Black Woman. Okay, so now when you take the poem, you can see that what the poet is trying to what send an information to the public, okay, about what? Africa, all right? Now, the color of the natural black woman is life, and her form is beauty, and her form is what? Beauty. Sangor has grown up under the shadow of this black woman. That is what? When he was in Africa, he was what? Under the shadow of what? This what? Black woman, the black woman who represents what? Africa. So the point is telling us that what? He grew up under, or he grew up in what? Africa. Okay. Now, this black woman is seen as someone who is very adorable, very protective, and very what? Loving. So, Africa is also synonymous to this. Africa is adorable, protective. So this is what the poet is telling us, that he has grown up in an environment where there is love, where there is what? Protection. Okay, good. Now, the poet is also of the view that what? His spirit is being what? Nourished by this black woman. Now, this black woman represents what? Africa. So, he being in Africa, he has gotten the comfort that what he wants. Okay. However, the poet's disconnection from Africa is created when he travels to France. Okay, his disconnection what between what? Africa is what? His disconnection from what? Africa is created, or he has noticed that what? There is what? A disconnection when he travels to what? France, where he no longer receives what? The love, the affection, the protection that he used to get when he was in Africa. All right, good. Any question? All right. So now that he has realized that what? He grew up in what? An environment which is what? Which has nurtured his spirit. He feels that he has to return from France to what? Senegal. All right. Now, the poet also refers to what? Africa as what? A promised land. He refers to what? Africa as what? A promised land, as we have in the Bible. I explained this the last time when we were in class. I told you that what? The promised land is a land filled with what? Milk and honey. So the poet likens what, or personifies what? Africa to what? This promised land. And this is what? A biblical allusion. Okay. Now, why is he referring to Africa as a promised land? He's referring to Africa as a promised land because he witnessed what? Racism and discrimination in what? In France. All right. Good. Now you can also realize in the second stanza that the poet explores the different aspects of the beauty and riches of what? The African continent, as well as the natural beauty of what? Africans' physical body makeup. All right. So when you read the second stanza, this is what the poet is trying to what? Tell us. Now let's look at these lines. We have lines like what? Savannah, gazelle. Last time I explained gazelle is an animal in Africa, okay? The poet uses, which can be what? Located on the what? African continent, and then this makes what Africa what a paradise. Okay, all right. So that is that on the first point, on the structure. So when you take the structure of the poem, this is what the poet is trying to do. The poet what? The poem has what? 4 stanzas. Now when you take the 4 stanzas, you need to what? Tell us what? At least 2 or 3 of these stanzas. All right? Then you also explain some of what? The lines. Now the next point is what? You can also see the poet, you can see that the poet uses what? Anaphora. Okay, there is what? The use of what? Anaphora. Now do we know what anaphora is? Rosamond Mama, tell us what anaphora is.
No.
Rosamond Mama, what is anaphora in literature? Rosamond, Rosamond, can you hear me? Ajoro Precious, Senam, Senam, can you hear me? What? Gentum, Sedem. Gentum Sedem. Okay, Evarista. Evarista, tell us what anaphora is in literature.
Repeating of sequence.
Very good. Very good. That is what? Excellent.
Madam.
Yes, it's excellent. So you can see that what? There is what? The use of what? Anaphora. When you take the structure of the poem, the poet makes use of what? Repetition. Now you can see that what? Some of the lines or most of the lines are being what? Repeated. Now the poet anaphorizes what? Naked woman. He anaphorizes naked woman. Now take your poem. You can see then where these words naked woman, black woman being repeated at the beginning of all the stanzas in the poem. Do you have your poem with you? So look out for what? Naked woman, black woman. Have you seen that in all the stanzas? Eh? So we have one naked woman, black woman in the first stanza. Students, can you hear me?
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
So have you noticed that in the first stanza, naked woman, black woman. In the second stanza too, we have one naked woman, dark woman. In the third stanza, naked woman, dark woman. Have you seen that? Up to the last stanza, which is what? Also naked woman, black woman. Have you noticed that? So this is what? Anaphora or repetition. So the poet make use of what? Or he anaphorizes naked woman, black woman. So when you look at the physical structure or the physical appearance of the poem, this is what you can see of the poem. Okay? Now, you after telling us this, you need to tell us what? The essence of the poet using this line. Why, what is the reason for which the poet uses anaphora in the poem? Now, he uses this to show his what? Admiration of the natural beauty of the African woman and what? Riches of what? Africa's natural landscape. So this is the reason why the poet uses what? Anaphora. Okay? Now you should also remember that if you have pen with you, write this down. You need to remember that what? When you state a point in literature, you need to what? Link that poem to the poem and then tell us the significance or the reason why that line is there or why the poet uses that particular line. So write it. So these are
Madam,
the
please can you come
technicalities
again?
in what? Literature. I'm saying that if you give a point, okay, let's say you are to discuss the structure of the poem Black Woman, okay, and you give a point that what the poet uses what? Anaphora.
Yes,
Now
ma'am.
this is something that what you have noticed of the poem, all right? You have noticed that the poet uses what? Anaphora, or he anaphorizes most of the lines. So now you have to tell us what, where in the poem can we see this anaphora? Okay, you describe that. Then you have to tell us the essence for which the poet uses this. All right, have you written that? Now please, you need to listen and then what? You
Yes.
write it in your own words. Now, the reason why I don't want to be what answering most of the questions I have given you on literature is what, when I try to do that, some of you memorize it and you try to memorize it and then what, and give me the same thing. So that is why I have only given you one what, correction so far. So what you need to do is don't go and memorize what I have given you. Just read it, get the understanding and get the format, and then what? The next time I ask a question, you write it in your own words. Now I avoid what? Writing from the internet. I have noticed that some of you, when I give you assignment, you copy from what? The internet without what? Following the what? The format that you have to follow. So you need to what? Stop or put a stop to that. Okay? Is it okay? All right.
Enam and praise. Please mute yourself.
All right. So let's proceed. So the essence for which the poet anaphorizes black woman, dark naked woman, black woman in all the stanzas is that he wants to tell his audience that what he admires this, the natural beauty of what this African woman, and
Madam,
he, yes, any question?
Madam,
Yes.
somebody has unmuted herself or
Enam
himself
and
and we can't
praise.
hear again.
Okay.
Fiato and Enam. Uh-huh.
Is it okay now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good. So I'm telling you what the significance of what this, the repetition of what the naked woman, dark woman. All right. So the poet uses this to tell us that what he admires this beautiful woman, this beautiful black African woman, and what the riches of what the African natural landscape. All right. Now, another aspect of what structure we shall look at about what the poem Black Woman is what the if you look through the poem. Now before I give this, someone should give me the next structure. What have you also noticed of the poem? Roshmon, Mama, what have you noticed of this poem that you can tell me as the structure? Roshmon, can you hear me?
Yes, madam.
Very good. Now what have you noticed of this poem?
Madam,
Mhm.
he tries to praise uh, he tries to praise Africa.
No, just look at the physical. Look at the poem. Okay, do you have the poem with you?
Yes.
Now look on your poem and tell me something that you can see the poem. Look at the way it is written, and we've looked at what the stanza already. We have looked at what repetition already. So tell me something else. What have you also noticed? What of the arrangement of the lines?
Madam, short
Yes.
and long.
Pardon?
Short and long.
Okay, Rosamond can notice that some of the lines are very short and some are very long. All right, what else have you noticed? All right, I can notice what the use of what punctuation marks. Can you see that?
Yes.
Can you see the punctuation marks?
Yes.
Very good. So when
Yes, madam.
very good. So when we talk of structure, you look at the poem. What are the things can I see of this poem? Then you explain them. Then you tell us what the reason or the significance of what these what things that you have seen of this poem. Is it okay? So the third point that we'll discuss is what
Yes.
the use of what punctuation marks, or the poet uses punctuation marks. Some of these punctuation marks are what commas and what full stop. Have you noticed that? Can you see commas and then full stop in most of the
Yes,
lines?
ma'am.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes, madam.
Now, after you are able to what identify these things, or you are able to what identify the punctuation marks, then you need to tell us the reason why these punctuation marks are used in the poem. Why do you think the poet uses those punctuation marks? Anyone with any idea? Now you can see that what the poet uses what these punctuation marks in other that he could create what pauses. Okay, when you are reading, you get to a full stop or a comma. What do? You create what? What do? You pause and then what? You proceed, right? So the poet uses this what punctuation marks to create pauses, which give the reader the chance to reflect on
I don't
what he is what reading. Do you understand? So this is what the effect or the significance of what this punctuation marks in the poem. Now let's look at a line from the poem which has what these punctuation marks. Let's look at and now high up. Can you see that line in the first stanza? And now, comma. All right. So you see that there is what a little pause high up on the sun-baked hush at the heart of summer, at the heart of noon. So you can see that what there's the use of
at the
what
heart
the
of noon.
punctuation mark and then what punctuation marks here. So if you don't know this line, okay, this particular line, now if you tell the examiner that what the poet uses what punctuation marks, and you don't tell us anything from the poem that shows that what there is the use of punctuation mark, you have written nothing. Do you get it? Students, do you get it?
Yes.
So now that you are
Yes,
in the
madam.
house, you need to take the
Yes,
opportunity
madam.
and then what try to what If you can't memorize all the lines, know few lines from the poem, so that if they ask you a question, then you'll be in the position to what make reference to the poem.
I don't know la go to le fi ma kora me mi o na so me le si so a.
Who is that making noise?
Ya ma bu wa. Eti mele,
Said
eti
them.
mele.
Is that Precious? I believe it's Sedem.
No, madam.
Who's making noise there?
No, he said them.
Yes, I know your voice.
Madam, please tell them.
Yo.
Okay.
Who said them?
So that is that. All right. So the next thing that we'll discuss is what? The use of what? The first person narrative voice. The poet also uses what? The first person narrative voice. Now, why is it that the poet uses this first person narrative voice? He uses this to what? Relay his views of what? Africa in the poem. Okay? Now he wants to tell us what his personal views of what Africa. People have what different views of what Africa. Some even Africans have what bad notions of what their own what identity. So the poet wants to tell us that what he wants to what use this poem to tell us of what his personal view that he has of what Africa. So he wants to relay his views of what Africa by using what this poem. He uses the first. He uses what the first personal pronouns, like what? What are some of the pronouns used in this poem? Someone should look at it and then tell me. Gentoo said
Madam.
them. Yes.
I.
Very good. That is excellent. So the poet uses what? I. What else? What else?
Madam.
Yes.
Your.
All right. What about mine? Now remember, we are looking at what the first person narrative voice. Okay, Rosemond. All right.
Okay.
And I taught you what the
Okay.
first person, then the various what narratives that we have in literature. Okay, so the first person narrative voice is that he uses what personal pronouns like what I and what my. Now you can see my in what the second stanza. Have you seen that? And then you can see I in the first stanza. Okay, now what is the significance of what the poet using these personal pronouns? Why do you think he uses them? Gentoo said them. Tell us. Okay, Evarista.
Madam, the poet is trying to tell us that. Madam, please, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Evarista, talk. I can hear you.
Okay. The poet the poet poem like black woman.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. That is okay.
That's it.
All right. Thank you. Another person. Why do you think the poet uses the first person narrative voice? Any other idea?
Madam.
Yes, Rosemond.
Madam, I'm trying, no.
Okay, try.
Madam, because
You don't
like
say because.
because
Let's proceed.
he,
Mm-hmm.
he's part of it. The thing happened to him.
Okay, so he's proud of it. All right, that's a good
Yes.
attempt. Any other idea?
Madam,
Yes.
madam,
Yes.
please, the poet uses the first person narrative to show the acceptance of being proud as Black.
Very good. That is excellent. So the poet uses what? The first person narrative voice by using what? The personal pronouns like what? I, my, to show that what? Even though he is in France, he has not neglected his culture, as most Africans do when they travel. Do you understand? Do you understand?
Yes, madam.
He uses what? These personal pronouns, I, my, to tell us that what? Even though he's in France, he has not neglected or he has not abandoned his culture, as most Africans do when they travel. Now, when most Africans, when they travel abroad, what do? They forget what? Their culture. And they try to what? Adapt what? The foreign culture. And they start saying all sort of things about what? Africa. And they even what? Try to emulate what? The language of the white man, the way they speak, the way they dress, the way they eat. So when they come back to Africa, they start acting as if they were not born and bred in Africa. So the poet is telling us that even though he is in France, he has not forgotten or neglected his what? Culture. As most Africans in Europe do. Okay? Now, why is he telling us this? Another reason is also to tell us that what? He has witnessed what? Racism, discrimination. He has also witnessed the what? The French policy of what? Assimilation. I told you of the French policy of assimilation. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Good. The French policy of assimilation, which states that what? You as a black man in Europe, you need to what? Leave or abandon your culture, and then what? Imbibe that of what? The white man. And then when you are able to do that, they'll give you what? The various things that you get your green card, your whatever, to get your permanent stay there. But all those things are what? Fallacy. Blacks do that in those countries, and at the end of the day, they are even what? Brutalized the more. Okay, so the point is telling us that what? Even though he is in France, he doesn't want to neglect his what? His what? Culture. That was the reason why he even what? Formed the negritude movement. Okay, so with this, we have come to the end of what? The structure of the poem Black Woman. Now you can see that what? It is very what? Necessary for us to know the background of the poet. Now, if you don't know the background of the poet, how can you appreciate the poem? Now, sometimes the background of the poet has what? A bearing on what? Whatever they write. Okay? Now we have something we call what? Literary criticism, okay, in English language. Now, before you as a critic, you can what? Write something on what? Any work of art. Sometimes when you have an idea of what the background of what the writer is, or where the writer uh, comes from, can give you a clue as to why what the poet what raises certain issues in the poem. Now you can see in the poem Black Woman that the poet grows in what, in someone's land, France, where he witnessed the way the blacks were maltreated, the way the blacks were what, ill treated. They were regarded as what, good for nothing people. They regarded what, the blacks as what, as what, as what, idiots. They regarded the blacks as what, monkeys. So he grows in what, such an environment. And what is he trying to do? He wants to use this poem to what, address some of these issues, to bring to the awareness of the African to the blacks that what, see, these whites, they don't regard you people as what, humans. So that is what he is trying to use. So he uses this poem to criticize what, the the ill nature of what, the white man. All right. Okay, so now let's proceed with the next topic, which is diction. The next thing that we'll look at of this poem is what? Diction. Diction. Now, what is diction in literature? What is diction in literature? Now, diction refers to the language used by the writer to convey his or her thoughts to the audience. It refers to the language used by the writer to convey his or her thoughts to the audience. It is also the writer's choice of words which separates good writing from the bad writing. Okay? Now, the words have to be what? Accurate and what? Appropriate to what? Context. So if you as a writer, you want to what? Write any work of art, you need to what? Know the language you want to use. Okay? So some poems, when you take them, or some work of art, when you take them, you see the language being written in what? In what? Let's say Latin. Some are even written in what? Archaic language. Some, the poet uses what? Jargons. They, based on the writer's what? Style of writing. You use the language that what you want to use, but you have to make sure that what, this language is what, appropriate to what context. Okay, so that is what diction. So now we want to look at what diction, or the language, or how the poet uses what, his what, language or words to convey his what, thought to the audience. Now you can see that the poet is what, giving out information to what, audience, to the audience. Now, how is he able to do this? He's able to do this through his choice of what, words. So this is what, diction. Now let's proceed with the diction of the poem. Now, the first point we'll look at is what, you can see that what, the poet uses simple diction to convey his message. Okay, he uses what, simple language. The language that he uses is very simple. When you take the poem, they've not written any words, archaic language here that you wouldn't be in the position to understand. Neither is the language in what written in what Latin or French. All right. So he uses what simple diction to convey his message. And what are some of these messages? These are what love and what commitment to the African continent. Okay, he uses what simple language to convey his what message to the audience. And what are some of these, or what is this message that we are talking about? It is what love and what commitment. The poet is telling us that, oh, I love Africa. I love this beautiful black woman who represents Africa. So he's telling us that that what there is nothing that can separate his love for this beautiful woman. And this beautiful woman represents what? Africa. So he uses simple language to what? Convey this message. Understood? Now, he also uses words that his audience can what? Understand. When you read this poem, you can see that what the poet uses language that you can what? Easily understand. It is not something that you now have to go and take dictionary, or you have to go and do translation before you what? Understand this language. All right. So you can see that the poet doesn't use what? Archaic or Latin or any bombastic words to describe the beauty of what? His beloved. Okay, and who is this beloved? The beloved here is what? Africa. So we can see some of the words he used. Let's look into our books, or if you have the poem with you, look into it. We have what? Savannah, promised land. Can you see those words in the poem? Students?
Yes, madam.
Good. So we have
Yes.
Savannah, we have promised land, we have what? Gazelle, we have what? Winds, we have mention them. Uh-huh. What are some of the words?
Glitching.
Pardon?
Glitching.
Very good.
Glitching.
Very good. So these are what? Simple words that the poet uses to convey his love for his beloved. And who is this beloved? This beloved is what? Africa. Now let's look at the next point. The diction of the poet captures the images of the beauty of the African landscape. So you can see that he also uses diction that what talks about what? The African landscape and what? Other images. All right. Now let's look at the third point. The poet uses the personal pronouns such as I and me. Can you see that?
Yes.
Can you see that in the poem?
Yes, madam.
Very good. Now he uses this in the poem to tell us that, or the reason why he uses this I and me, or what this means is that the poet wants to tell us that what? About what? The racism. I think I explained this poem or this line already, all right? Where I told you that what the poet is trying to tell us of what? His personal views of what? Africa, all right? Good. And then the fourth one is what? He uses black woman to explore the complexion and what? beauty of what? Africa. So black woman is what? It's part of the diction that he uses. All right. And you can see this black woman in most of what? His lines. All right. Good. So
Yes, madam.
very good. Oh, just a minute. Student, just a minute, all right? So with this, we are done with diction. The next thing that we'll look at is what? Poetic devices. Now, before we look at that, let's look at what? Imagery. So these are the two things that we'll discuss under what? This poem, and then we are done with this. Then we'll move on to the next poem, which is what? The Song of the Women of My Land. That will be our next poem that we'll discuss. So all the things that we have discussed under what? The black woman, don't forget. Okay? Is it okay?
Yes, madam.
Very good.
Thank you, madam.
I want to share a new slide, okay? All right. So let's look at what? Imagery. Now, what is imagery in literature? Imagery is what is addressed by the poet so that sensory impressions are created among the audience. Now, what are these sensory impressions? They are senses of touch, hearing, and taste. Now, what this means is that when you take any work of art, when you read it, there is what? Something that is what? Created in your mind as an audience. Okay? So that is what imagery is telling us. So imagery is also any information that appeals to the senses of what? Sight, hearing, taste, touch, or what? Smell. So when you read a particular work of art, there is what? A picture that is what? Created in your mind. Okay? Now, when you take the poem Black Woman, for instance, some of the images or imagery that is created in the poem is what we have. What we have, the image of sense of what? Sight, by the repetition of what? Let's look at this line: naked woman, black woman, at the beginning of all the stanzas. Do you have that in your poem?
Yes.
Naked woman, black woman. Now this creates
Yes,
what?
madam.
An image in your what? Sight, or what? Maybe in your mind. Okay? Now, even though this might project profanity, when you look at this naked woman, someone is naked. Naked woman, black woman. What is the first thing that is created in your mind? Hmm? you perceive that what someone is naked, a woman is naked, a black woman is what? Naked, right?
It's naked.
Right? Is that not what you are
Yes.
able to project?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now, even though
Yes,
this
madam.
this image might project profanity, the poet's intention is to what? Tell the personality of what? Africa in terms of what? The skin color, and then what? And form, as well as what? Beauty. So the essence for which the poet uses this line, naked woman, black woman, is to create what? A particular effect. And what is this effect? Is to what? Tell us of what? The skin color and what? And the form of what? This African woman. Okay? So it is not to what? Tell us that what? She's naked. No. Now, the whites, they see us that what? They see us as what? We Africans, we are what? Naked. Now, we are naked means what? We don't have culture. We don't have a system of governance. We don't have what? Our own ways of what? Doing things. We don't even have civilization. They are of the view that they brought civilization to Africa. So this is what the poet is saying. The poet is saying that what? The whites see us that we are what? Naked. We are naked in doing our things. It means what? We are void of what? Every good thing. We don't know how to what? Organize our things. All right? So the poet is using this poem to tell what? Or to tell the audience that even though the whites see we, the Africans, as what? Barbaric people, as what? Good for nothing people, as naked people in our
Primitive.
ways of doing things. He feels that what? This naked woman, if you see the nakedness of a woman, you are able to see what? The form of this woman, the complete form of this woman. Okay, now when you take those images that the people create, okay, when you see it, you are able to see what? The real feature of what? Of what? The African woman. So the poet uses this naked woman, dark woman, to tell us that what? The form alone is what? Beauty. The form has revealed the beauty of this African woman. And what is this form? The form here is referring to what? The form of what? Africa. Black woman represents what? Africa. So the naked here is revealing the true identity of what? Africans. Is it okay? Mm?
Yes, madam.
So the poet also creates what? Images of what? The beauty of what? The African landscape and people. Okay, so we can see that in some of the lines here, we have what? Savannah stretching to clear horizon. Savannah shuddering beneath the east wind's eager caresses. So all these things are what? Images of what? Beauty of what? The African landscape, which the poet creates in the mind or the sight of we, the audience. So with this, we are done with images. Any question before we proceed? All right, so the last thing that we'll do is what? Poetic devices. Poetic devices. And then we are done with what? This poem. The next time we meet, we start a new poem. So the first poetic device that we'll look at is what? Apostrophe. Apostrophe. Now, I told you already what literary devices or poetic devices are. Okay, we did that already. So the first poetic device that we'll look at is what? Apostrophe. Now, what is apostrophe? It is what? An address to what? A person who is not present. Or this is when the poet addresses an absent person or an abstract idea or thing. Okay, the thing is not there, but what you are making reference to that thing as if the person or the thing is just right before you. It is also an address or speech to a person who is not present. I have said this earlier. Okay, so when we take this line from the poem, let's look at that. Naked woman, black woman. I think it's on your screen. Look on your screen. Naked woman, black woman, clothed with your color, which is life, with your form, which is beauty. In your shadow, I have grown up. Okay, so you can infer from this line that what? The poet is talking to someone. Have you noticed that?
Yes, madam.
You can see that the poet is what? Talking to someone. Naked woman, black woman, but the person is not there. Naked woman, black woman, clothed with your color. Now, who is this your? The person is not there. So it is what? An apostrophe. Okay? Now, the poet uses this line to make what? Now, this your, you can see your in the second word line, clothed with your. Now, this your here represents what? The world and what? Africa. Okay, so this is what? An address to Africa and the world. So it is what? An apostrophe. The next thing that we'll look at is what? The biblical allusion. Biblical allusion. This is the next poetic device in the poem. Biblical allusion. Now, what is biblical allusion? Biblical allusion, it is when the poet what? Uses words and situations that make direct reference to biblical stories or characters or what? Places. So when you see a writer or a poet making reference to what? Something in the Bible, or let's say the character is talking about what? Let's say Joseph, or the character is what? Talking about what? Mary. We have a poem on what? The Garden of what? Eden. That poem, for instance, it is what? A biblical what? Poem. So you can see from this poem that the poet uses what? Biblical allusion. Now, what is the line that can give us this assertion? I come upon you, my promised land. So this line tells us that what? The poet uses what? Biblical allusion. Now, the promised land here is what? It's making reference to what? A story in the Bible. Do you remember? Do you agree?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, madam.
We have the promised land in the Bible. So if the poet is able to use this in the poem, then it makes this line a biblical allusion. Now, let's continue with the next one. The next one, which is the third poetic device, is what? Simile. Simile. Now, who can tell me what simile is in literature? Said them, Gentum.
Madam,
Yes.
please, it is the comparison between two Unide- una-
Uh-huh.
unidentical things with the use of as and like.
Very good. So it is when a poet or someone makes what? A comparison between two unidentical things with the use of what? Like, as, and resemble. So I can say that what? Gentle Sedem eats like a what?
A pig.
Like
Lady.
a glutton.
A lady.
Pardon?
Okay.
So with this, you can see that what? There is what? Comparison here. And it is what? Simile. She is as fair as. Someone should complete that. She is as fair
Rosemary.
as what? Dennis.
Fair as
A bush pig.
Okay, a bush pig.
Madam, a bush pig. She is as yes.
As fair as L.
So this is what? Simile. She is
Are you
as fair
sure?
as what? The black cat.
As dark as Sasa.
So this is also what? Simile. So you can see some of these things in some of what? Certain works of what? Art. So now what is a simile in this poem? The simile in this poem is what? Someone should identify one in the poem for us.
Madam,
Yes.
the first stanza.
The first stanza, okay. What is there?
Your beauty strikes me to the heart like the flash of an eagle.
Very good. So what makes it a simile?
Like,
Like, very good. I know there is like there. So why is it a simile? You don't just state the line and just leave it like that. You need to give the significance of it. And your beauty strikes me to the heart like a flash of an eagle. So what is the significance of this line? So the way the beauty of this black woman, is there anyone who wants to talk? Okay, so the point is so
Madam,
amazed.
Madam, he's comparing the beauty of the woman to that of an eagle.
Very good. So that is what the comparison here. All right. Now the next one is what? Metaphor. Metaphor. Now who can tell me what metaphor is? We've done this already.
Madam,
Yes.
the comparison between two unlike things without using like or as or resemblance.
Very good. So there is what? Comparison between two unidentical things without the use of what? The words like, as, and resemble. Okay. So let's look at the line in the poem which can be described as what? Metaphor. Clothed with your color, which is life, with your form, which is beauty. Do you agree? Hmm?
Yes, bro.
Now you can see that the whole poem is what? The poet uses what? Metaphor throughout the poem by comparing what? The beauty of Africa to the beauty of what? The black woman. Okay, so that is the significance of this line. So with this, we have come to the end of this poem. Okay, any question?